Hello, this is Patrick from Parcels, and you're listening to WRSU FM.
Mm-hmm.
And now I forgot New Brunswick. Enjoy.
Beautiful. I kind of want to start with the Govball conversation and what happened with that.
Yeah.
So, like, did you know that your set was going to get cut? Did you have any say in the process, or?
Oh man, it was such a chaotic weekend. We didn't know at all. I mean, we flew to New York just for this show, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And we had everything set up. It's the first gig we've done in a while. We've had like a month rehearsing for all the festivals. We have a new set and new gear, and we were really excited to try it all out. And then we set it all up backstage. It was all ready. We spent like an hour setting everything up. And then it suddenly got cancelled, like just before, kind of more or less before we were going to get ready and play.
Jeez.
And then I don't know. Then we were kind of, we went back to the city, to our hotel, and then we were looking around, and the weather was so good at like 3:30 when we were supposed to be performing. The weather was just perfect. So it was devastating. We also went back in to see the Strokes.
Oh, yeah. And then everything went to hell.
Yeah, so the weather was fine all day, and then we drove back in, and then just as we get there, it just starts pouring, and the whole thing gets evacuated.
Mm-hmm.
We were so devastated not to see the Strokes.
Did you guys, like, get off the island okay? Because we had a very hard time trying to leave.
Yeah, us too. Like, we were, because we'd left our backstage and kind of officially left the festival, so we didn't really have like a space, but we were just chilling backstage at the bar, kind of waiting for them to play.
Mm-hmm.
And then it started bucketing, and then the security started coming around, like, everybody get inside, like, we had nowhere to go. And they were passing us in, and we ran into Bob Moses's backstage.
Oh, right, yeah.
And they were super sweet, like, the crew and everyone was there, and they, like, kind of let us in this little cabin with them, and we stayed there for hours waiting.
Oh, wow.
Waiting for his shuttle.
That's lucky. I feel like I saw riots happen trying to leave this island.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, like, we were lucky enough to be kind of in the little backstage oasis, but I could just hear like screaming. It sounded crazy.
Yeah, it was genuinely like purge levels of chaos, and we had
that feeling, the purge vibes.
It was like just so far into the weekend where you just had to take it and laugh at it. Otherwise, it would actually be traumatizing.
Totally. Yeah, that was like the whole weekend for us was just trying to laugh at this ridiculous trip to New York, like for 24 hours and nothing.
Are you guys coming back to the U.S. anytime soon for any shows?
No time soon. Nothing on the books.
Gotcha.
We love going there, but we've spent a lot of time, it feels like a lot of time in the last few months. Now we're going to do some European festivals and then hide away for a little bit.
Gotcha. So your most recent album came out in 2018. It's a self-titled album. Do you have any, like, I asked another band this and they got mad at me, but I feel like I'm going to take my chances again. Do you have any favorite songs that you've written, or are they all just your babies?
It's really hard. I think you just go through phases, and it definitely feels like just one kind of piece to me now.
Mm-hmm.
The album, but there's a few songs that I don't know. There's all little things like I'm. The only song I'm really happy with the lyrics in is Lighten Up, for example. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's a lot of, a lot in my mind that could have been worked on that, like in the other ones. And then there's like, in terms of like melodic kind of songwriting, like with or without, I find it as like just a simple, emotive song is kind of my favorite for that. There's little moments in each song, I guess.
Right. Is there like a crowd favorite that people seem to kind of lose their minds for every time you play?
It's always really fun playing every road.
Yeah.
Definitely for us. I often don't really know how the crowd feels in that because it's such a deep track, and I just kind of like go into. I think we all kind of just go into our own little space and just come out. People seem to like it, but yeah, really fun.
I also got a lot of like 80s funky vibes from this album. And I hate to ask people like who their musical influences are, but like in 80s decade specific, like do you feel like there are specific bands that you kind of channeled to get the kind of vibe that you have?
In what specifically? Sorry, in the 80s?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when it comes to like groove and funk, we're more. I usually feel like we're more inspired by 70s kind of stuff.
Oh, totally, yeah.
But yeah, some of that earlier. Yeah, I mean, there's so much of it to get into, but yeah, we've always been big on Steely Dan and like that kind of era of kind of studio funk pop, and then there's all the classic soul stuff that Curtis and Al Green and Herbie Hancock. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
It's endless.
Do you feel like restricted at all creatively because of like the subgenre of pop that you fall under, or do you feel like you have a lot of creative freedom?
I think we definitely dealt with in the past a little bit of not feeling restricted, but kind of getting a little bit resentful of people always putting us in this like classic band category. And I think like it's fair enough, especially when we play live, like also because it's just something that doesn't happen so much, like live kind of funk and groovy stuff. And we take a lot of influence from classic music, especially in the live set. But yeah, we kind of never wanted to be that. We wanted to be doing something modern as well. Right. But I think we never feel restricted. I feel a great kind of feeling within the band that when we're writing and when we're recording that we can do anything and anyone can bring any idea to the table and it never gets shut down if it's a folk song or if it's a metal song. Like, yeah, it's just all about the vibe you kind of create within the writing process.
I'm also really curious about like music culture in Australia versus like the US. And you guys are in Berlin now, right?
Yeah.
And I guess in Berlin too then. Like what are some like differences that you've noticed in like how people interact with music?
Between Australia and Berlin?
Yeah.
I mean, there's of course a different musical history and like different styles that people gravitate towards because of that. And like coming to Berlin, we were naturally exposed to so much electronic music and so much club culture and a whole different way of like listening to music and just losing yourself. I think that was the biggest inspiration here. And like, not necessarily going to see a show where there has to be this big performance, but rather closing your eyes and just totally losing yourself, and that's really inspiring. Maybe you mean more like culturally? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean both.
Yeah. I think there's definitely more of like a kind of sanctity around a live show here. And which can be good and bad. Like the crowds are more respectful and more kind of quiet and listen more in Germany as opposed to Australia, as far as we've experienced.
Right.
But that also means that in Australia they also like party. So we've had some really fun, really wild shows where people are just getting down. Yeah.
How do you guys feel about like audience participation? Like what level of audience participation is too much? Because in the US I've noticed a lot people will like yell at performers like in between songs or during quiet sets, and I feel like that's not okay. So What's your take?
That's such an American thing.
Yeah.
We felt that too, but actually I love it. I love playing in America, and people will just, I don't know, we've only had good experiences with people in our class just like, yeah, just communicating with us, or just like, you know, if they're real inspired, they'll just yell out, man, that's funky, or whatever, you know. It's fun. And yeah, like we had like in, I remember in Dallas or somewhere in the South, some guy was just like yelling at us the whole concert, and he's just like, let me come on stage. Like, it just really wanted to get on stage. And then at some point, Jules was just like, yeah, all right, come up here. And just like hands Jules a joint, and then just kind of starts dancing awkwardly in the middle of the stage. Just one guy.
Love that.
The tenacity.
In this like day and age of accessibility via like social media, and like the second you follow someone on Instagram, you could also message them on Instagram. Like,
yeah.
How do you feel about the lack of boundaries between you and fans? And like, what do you do in order to create those boundaries?
Well, I feel like it's very easy. Like, I don't feel like we're intruded on. You can always, people can write you through social media, but you can always, we don't look at that generally.
Right.
I think you don't have time, and it's not like, we're kind of more on the other side at the moment of trying to connect with people more on a more personal level, and we've kind of started this project called the Parcels Pop Shop, which is like a kind of little community of people who are all signed up to emails and texts and whatnot, and we communicate with them, and we've had like Skype calls with fans, and like for Louis' podcast that he makes, and it's like we're kind of more on the train of trying to connect on a more personal level with more people who are truly interested, and yeah.
Right. Well, that's good that you are like in control of it, you know?
Yeah, that's also nice. Like, yeah, the thing we have right now is like, I don't know how many people are up. It's like probably like a few thousand people from all around the world, and it's like the true kind of fans and musical lovers, and it's just a real nice community. Yeah.
Right. And you guys also worked with Daft Punk a few years ago, so I was kind of wondering what that experience was like.
Oh, it was incredible. It taught us so much, and it blew our minds in many ways. We spent at first we just spent a week in the studio with them, like just randomly. We just came to meet them and hang out, and ended up getting inspired together. And there was no plan, but we just kind of all got lost in the moment, and just ended up making a song together. And that week was just such a trip. Walking home from their studio every day at 4 a.m., just like taking it all in, what we were seeing, what we were experiencing, was crazy.
Mm-hmm. Is there any other band or group that you would want to have like that same collaborative process with? Many
people I would love to collaborate with.
If you had to pick like top three.
This is a question that gets asked a lot, and I always say to myself afterwards that I need to think about this. I always feel like I miss someone or something, but there's like a lot of different worlds that would be cool to work with. Like we're all big fans of Anderson .Paak and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I was listening yesterday to the Punch Brothers, you know, Chris Style.
Right. Yeah.
And I was just like taking in his songwriting, kind of really linear, kind of like really free kind of journey of a song that he creates every time. And I was just thinking it'd be really interesting to get into his head about that.
Sure.
There's so many people, and I think we've never really collaborated much, and that's something we're really looking towards.
Mm-hmm. I don't really have any more questions for you except for like what's coming up for you, where can everyone find you? Just plug yourself, I guess.
Yeah, well, we're just we're about to hit the European Festival Road. It's going to be fun. We got a big new set, and we're touring with our crew, and it's going to be a nice summer. And then, like I said, after that, we're just going to hide away for a bit. We've got a lot of big ideas, and they'll take some time. Can't rush.
Totally. Well, I'm looking forward to your new music. You guys are awesome.
Thanks.
And thank you for
Thanks so
making
much.
time for us.
What?
I said thank you for making time for us at WRSU.
Of course.